Alrighty, welcome back. We are on episode number 3 of Divinity Original Sin Part 2, the Definitive Edition. So last episode we started exploring the character creator. We saw that there were 6 origin characters that you can select to play, or you can create a custom character. And we listened to all the origin stories of those characters. So what I want to do now is go over the presets and so first, before we do the presets, let's go over the attributes. So let's go ahead and hit edit here. So we're on the metamorph preset. We'll go back to that. Let's just look at the attributes here. So let's hit edit. Attributes. The attributes panel shows the primary stats you can spend points in after you level up. Primary stats have a direct influence on secondary stats. Understood. Combat abilities. Spending points on combat abilities generally increases the damage you do in the skill schools you invest in. However, there are other benefits as well. Read the descriptions of the skill schools to fully understand what the invested points do. Okay. So first thing I notice is that this is a base 10 system. So in Divinity Part 1, your attribute started at 5, and at the end of the game, as far as spending points go, and I'm not counting points that you might have gotten other ways, but as far as spending actual points, you got close to 10 to 12 as the maximum at the end of the game. So they're starting out with 10 automatically, and I don't know what the maximum is in this game, if there is one. So we have strength. Strength increases your damage with strength-based weapons and skills, and allows you to lift and carry your heavier items. Currently, strength-based attacks and skills do plus 10% extra damage. Can move items with weight up to 90 kilograms. Can carry items with total weight up to 120 kilograms before becoming encumbered. And then 1 point is plus 5% damage. So I'm assuming if I drop the 2 points here, right, it says 120 and it says 10% extra. So if we drop that, so that's where we're getting the extra. So every point you spend in strength, you increase the strength-based attacks and skills damage by 5%. And you're also increasing the weight you can move and carry. So it was 10 kilograms of carry weight. Alright. So one thing about Divinity 1 that I hated was first, the inventory management. You picked up so much stuff in the game. You're always carrying so many things in your bag because it had a very robust crafting section. Yeah, you really could craft a lot of stuff. A lot of it was kind of pointless, but still, whatever you could craft, and that meant you were carrying a lot of stuff around. So one of the quality of life things was to have higher strength, simply to be able to carry more. And I'm gonna learn from that mistake, I think, and try to focus more on strength in this game because of that alone, just to make it easier on myself to carry stuff around. Because I'm assuming they have the same crafting system or something very similar to it. Alright. Finesse. So there wasn't finesse in Divinity 1. It was dexterity, so I think they just named it finesse. I don't know why they would change it. But anyway. Finesse increases your damage with finesse-based weapons and skills. Finesse. Currently, finesse-based attack skills do a plus 10% damage, and that's because we have 2 points spent there. So for every point we spend, we get plus 5% damage to finesse-based weapons and skills. Then we have intelligence. Determines intelligence-based damage you deal. So for each point of intelligence we spend, we get plus 5% damage. Constitution. Constitution determines how much vitality you have. So for every point we spend, 1 point would add plus 7% vitality. Memory. This is completely new. Memory affects your amount of memory slots, which are required to learn skills. More powerful skills cost more memory. Base slots, 3. Extra slots for memory plus a 0. Okay, so this is a new functionality, but I think this is going to be better. So in Divinity 1, let's say you wanted to be a fire-based mage, right? You would have to pick pyrokinetic, I think pyrokinetic, as your skill tree, and then depending on how many points you spent there is how many spells you were capable of even learning. And once you've learned those spells, you couldn't learn any more. So it sounds like what this game did is it just made slots so that you can swap out spells. So I don't think you'll be limited to the number of spells you can learn. You'll be limited to the number of spells you can memorize, which is a much better system. So spending 1 point in memory gets us 1 extra memory slot. So basically 1 extra slot to use a skill, to memorize a skill. All right. Wits. There wasn't any wits in part 1. Wits. Wits affect your critical chance, initiative, and your ability to detect traps and find hidden treasures. 1 point would add 1% critical chance plus 1 initiative. Okay. So in Divinity 1, this was called perception when it came to the ability to detect traps and hidden treasures. I don't believe perception had anything to do with critical chance, but I can't remember for sure, or initiative. I'm not sure on that. But they, yeah. So they changed up some things here. Alright, let's take a look at the abilities now. See how much this has changed. Civil abilities are non-combat abilities. They come in handy when you are not solving a situation through conflict. Alright. So we have combat abilities and civil abilities. Okay. And they give us points to spend in each, it looks like. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So you start out with 2 combat ability points and 1 civil ability point. Okay. And we're getting 1 persuasion from Spell Song with the lizard trait. Interesting. Okay, so warfare. Warfare increases all physical damage you deal. So for the next level, physical attacks deal plus 5% more damage. So for every level of warfare, you get plus 5% more damage to your physical attacks. In Divinity 1, this was called Man-at-Arms, so they changed the name. Huntsman. Huntsman increases the damage bonus when attacking from high ground. Next level. 1. Plus 5% to all damage when attacking from high ground. Note, that this bonus is applied after all other bonuses have been applied. High ground, huh? So in Divinity 1, there wasn't a huntsman, but it was a marksman. And I don't recall high ground being a mechanic in Divinity 1, although it might have been, and I just never noticed it and never used it. But apparently in this game, you're going to get a bonus based on where you are, which is cool. That should have been a thing in part 1 if it wasn't. I think it will. I don't remember it being one, but I can't say I necessarily went out of my way to try to find high ground. Maybe there wasn't any. Anyway, interesting. But it's not as good as Warfare as far as damage goes because it's limited to just high ground. So if you're not on high ground, you're not getting a bonus. Whereas Warfare, you're getting a flat out bonus no matter where you're at. So, and I'm assuming arrows are physical damage. So if I were going to spend points just for the damage, I'm certainly not going to spend it on Huntsman when I can spend it on Warfare. I'm sure there's probably some skills that you have to spend in order to get them. You know, you have to have a Huntsman level 3 just to be able to describe this spell, but beyond that reason, there's no reason to increase Huntsman from a damage perspective when you could do it through Warfare. So that's kind of weird. I wonder why they did it that way. Alright, Scoundrel. Scoundrel increases movement speed and boost your critical modifier. The next level, 1 plus 5% critical multiplier plus 0.3 movement speed. Okay, so you're just boosting up your critical attacks. And again, you can make an argument that you're not always going to critical, but you're always going to deal damage, assuming you hit. So, if I were going to be spending points, I would go into Warfare again to get the flat out damage above getting Scoundrel just for a multiplier on something that may not crit. Now that'd be different if you could force a crit all the time, but Pyrokinetic. Pyrokinetic increases all fire damage you deal. Next level 1, plus 5% more damage. Pretty straightforward. Hydrosophist. Hydrosophist increases all water damage you deal, and any vitality healing or magic armor restoration that you cause. Next level. Water attacks deal plus 5% more damage, plus 5% vitality healed, plus 5% magic armor from skills and potions. Alright, so basically all around increasing your healing of everything that you do, and then increasing water damage. Aerothurge. Aerothurge increases all air damage you deal. Next level, air attacks deal 5% more damage, so pretty straightforward again. Geomancer increases all poison and earth damage you deal, and any physical armor restoration you cause. Next level 1, poison and earth attacks deal 5% more damage, plus 5% physical armor from skills and potions. Okay. So Hydrosophist adds to magic armor, and Geomancer adds to physical armor. So there are 2 different mechanics now. There's a physical and magical armor. Necromancer. This was not in Divinity 1. This was witchcraft in Divinity 1. That's what this was. Okay. Witchcraft. So it's Necromancer now. Necromancer heals you whenever you deal damage directly to vitality. Ooh. Next level 1. Heal for 10% of damage dealt. Okay. So you have magic armor, you have physical armor, and then you have vitality. And this is saying once you deal damage directly to vitality, you'll heal that damage. 10% of that damage for this level. So that means you have to get through the physical armor or magic armor, or maybe even both. But once you get through those armors and you start hitting the actual vitality, that's when you start healing. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Huh. That's intriguing. Alright. Summoning. This was also not part of Divinity 1, because each of, like in Divinity 1, the Pyrokinetic could do a fire elemental, the Hydrosophist could do a water elemental, the Aerothurge, an air elemental, Geomancer, an earth elemental. The Necromancer had, the Witchcraft had undead decapitators and undead skeletons, and yeah, these all had their own summons, the magic schools. So it seems like they probably took all the summons out of these schools and stuck it into summoning and made summoning a school of its own. At least I believe that's probably what they did. So summoning increases vitality, damage, physical armor, and magic armor of your summons and totems. Next level 1. Summons start with 10% more vitality, damage, physical armor, and magic armor. Okay. And then we have Polymorph. Oh, and there's more after that. Okay. Polymorph. So this is, again, another new school of magic. Polymorph provides 1 free attribute point per point invested. Huh. Okay. Let's go back to here for a minute. We have 3 attribute points. So I'm going to want to confirm. So there are 3 attribute points. Edit. 2. Confirm. Edit. Huh. 5. So that's how that's going to work. Alright, well that's how you get some attribute points there. So by doing that, depending on what you pick, you can increase your damage by 5% just by putting 1 point into Polymorph. So every point you put into Polymorph is potentially 5% more damage. Or more health, or more slots. That's not terrible, really. Interesting. So that's kind of odd. Okay. Alright. So weapons now. Single-handed. Single-handed increases damage and accuracy when using a single-handed weapon. Dagger, sword, axe, mace, or wand with a shield or empty offhand. Empty offhand, huh? Next level 1. Plus 5% damage, plus 5% accuracy. So, if this is like anything like Divinity 1, one-handed, single-handed was terrible. Tanking in general was just terrible. It was far better to be a damage-dealing class. Shields were bad. Although with how it's sounding like it's going to work, where you have armor that has to be dealt with before you can hit the vitality, shields might be better in this game. But I'm going to go with the assumption that damage will still be king, making single-handed and shield use bad selections. Two-handed increases damage and the critical multiplier when using two-handed melee weapons: sword, axe, mace, spear, or staff. So plus 5% damage and plus 5% critical multiplier. Hmm. Okay. This is 5% damage and 5% accuracy. This is multiplier. Hmm. Interesting. So now the question I would have, would it be better to spend points in two-handed? Like if I wanted to be a two-handed wielder, would it be better for me to spend points in two-handed to get the 5% damage and the 5% critical multiplier, as opposed to spending the point in something like warfare, where you get that damage from warfare? Hmm. I mean, on the surface, it looks like you would rather go this way because you actually get the plus 5% critical multiplier, but you don't know how their formula works. It could be based completely different. It could be based on which one they're multiplying, or which where in the formula two-handed is versus where in the formula the warfare is. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Ranged. Ranged increases damage and critical chance when using bows and crossbows. Next level 1, plus 5% damage and plus 1% critical chance. So in Divinity 1, they split this category up between bows and crossbows as two completely separate categories, so they decided to put it into one now, which should have been the way that they handled it in Part 1. In Part 1, crossbows weren't as much of a damage dealer, even though they had higher base damage. The bows did more damage, so it looks like they may have revisited that idea in this game. Dual wielding increases damage and dodging when dual wielding two one-handed weapons. Next level 1, plus 5% damage, plus 1% dodge. Alright, so they completely redid this. So in Part 1, when you dual wielded, you had a penalty. And when you spent points in dual wielding, you decreased the amount of penalty you had until you finally became basically even with your primary weapon and your secondary weapon both dealing the same type of damage. So this one, there isn't a penalty, you're actually increasing. So I like how they did this better. It feels more rewarding. Alright, then we have the defensive category, and it looks like they've got rid of quite a bit here. I don't see body building, I don't see willpower. Leadership wasn't even considered a defensive ability. Alright, let's take a look at retribution. Retribution reflects received damage to your attacker. Next level 1, 5% damage reflected. You know, that doesn't seem to be all that great, but I can see that if you get this thing up to, you know, high level, I wonder what the cap is on these things, how much you can go up on these. In Part 1, you can only spend up to 5, and then once you got the 5, you can get more, but only through equipment. But since they started the tributes at base 10, I'm wondering how far these go up. I mean, 5%. So if it caps at 5, you're reflecting 25% of your damage back. That's not bad, actually. So this would be one of those things that you would want to get on early on, like, to make the most use of it. You have to really think about that. Alright, leadership. Leadership grants dodging and resistance bonuses to all allies in an 8-meter radius. Next level 1, plus 2% dodging and plus 3% to all resistances. So, like Part 1, if you have the leadership ability, it does not apply to the leader. It only applies to the other characters in the party. So, and as you got higher in levels, they added more and more stuff. So I don't know if we're going to see anything past dodging and resistances, but maybe they'll add something after that. Alright, then we have Perseverance. Perseverance restores magic armor after you recover from frozen or stunned, and restores physical armor after knockdown or petrified. Those are very specific status effects that it handles. Next, level 1. 5% armor restored. Again, like Retribution, that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you have to continuously keep your armor up, it might be alright. But man, you'll have to spend a combat ability to do that, and that was the problem with these types of skills, is that they seem gimmicky, whereas spending on actual skills had visible and immediate impacts. Alright. So that was the combat abilities. So now we have the civil abilities, and we have craftsmanship. So right off the bat, I don't see blacksmithing and crafting under craftsmanship, and it doesn't look like they have it here. So they must have gotten rid of that mechanic. So I wonder how they're going to deal with crafting. All right. So in part 1, you had to have blacksmithing if you wanted to create weapons and armor, and then you had to have crafting if you wanted to create everything else. And based on what level you had was based on how good of the stuff you could create. So under craftsmanship, they have telekinesis, which, how that's craftsman, I have no idea. Telekinesis allows you to move items telepathically regardless of weight. Next, level 1, up to 4-meter range. So in part 1, telekinesis was rarely used ever, and it was pretty much just a quality of life kind of thing, because if you had telekinesis, it made picking up items on the ground a little bit easier, and made items that were out of reach accessible. But there was also the unused, well not used, rarely used mechanic of where you can throw something on top of a character and damage them or drop it. Drop it like a barrel of ooze or a barrel of oil or barrel of water on top of something, and it would do physical damage because you're dropping the barrel on them, and then it would spread the puddle of whatever below them. So I could see it being used that way. Alright, maybe that's how they want it to be used. Lore Master. Lore Master identifies enemies and allows you to identify items. Increasing Lore Master allows you to identify more faster. To identify, use an identifying glass and select the item you want to identify. To examine a monster or NPC, select them and choose Examine. Alright. So in Divinity 1, you're able to identify items at vendors, so you didn't need to have Lore Master if you really didn't want it. You could just pay to have it identified. This is more another quality of life thing. But yes, when you right click and examine the monsters, it tells you a lot about them. So, you know, it'll tell you what the status effects are and what they're resistant to. Pretty much that was the only two that were actually informative for you in the fight. So, alright, so now we have Nasty Deegs. So I can see here that they got rid of lockpicking and pickpocketing from Divinity 1. They kept sneaking. Sneaking determines how well you can sneak without getting caught. Increasing this ability shrinks NPC sight cones and improves your movement speed while sneaking. So really the only thing I used sneaking for in part 1 was to steal things. That's pretty much it. It seemed very, very useless in combat. I don't foresee that being any different here. Thievery. Thievery improves your lockpicking and pickpocketing skills. So they combined it all into thievery. Okay. That needed to be done. To pick locks, use a lockpick or the context menu of a door or container. To pickpocket, interact with a character while sneaking. Next level. 1. Up to 2 kilograms, 300 total gold value. So for every level of thievery, we increase the amount we can pickpocket and the weight we can pickpocket. And probably the level of locks on the doors we can pick. Okay. Well, that's an improvement. Personality. Alright, we have bartering. Bartering improves your haggling skills. With each point invested, traders' items become cheaper and your items become more expensive. I wonder if that's shared. In fact, I wonder if all of these are shared. Like, do you have to have this on your character in order for it to work? Persuasion. This is new. Persuasion helps you convince characters to do your bidding in dialogues, and increases how much characters like you. Level 1. Increases base attitude with strangers by 5. So we have level 1 already. Alright, level 2. Increase base attitude with strangers by 10. So, in dialogues. Okay, so this is going to be different. So this is something that can affect dialogue. So in part 1, attitude was not really well defined as what it was doing for you. It was more of a hidden stat. You could see with each NPC you dealt with their attitude towards you, but it was hard to tell what it was doing. It's likely going to be the same way here, but the fact that persuasion helps you convince characters to do your bidding in dialogues, that's new, and that's something I definitely want to have. And I'll go over why later. Alright, and then we have Lucky Charm. Lucky Charm increases your likelihood of finding extra treasure whenever loot is stashed. So, I had Lucky Charm, a high Lucky Charm in Divinity 1, and I proved to myself, after playing it a couple of different times without Lucky Charm, with Lucky Charm, that Lucky Charm had a significant impact on the amount of loot you saw. So we'll see how that works here. But I'm wondering if Lucky Charm will be shared. I proved in my own playthrough that Lucky Charm was not shared, even though there were many people saying it was. Yeah, to me, from what I could tell, it was not shared. You had to have the character that had Lucky Charm. He had to be the one that actually looted whatever you were looting. So we'll find out that. So that's combat and civil abilities. Okay. Alright, so now let's go back to Metamorph. So let's look at the presets now. Metamorph adapts to dangerous situations with transformational tricks of nature. Alright, we played around with this preset. If I change to reset the preset, it's not going to reset that preset, is it? Oh, it did. No, it didn't. The skills aren't there. Okay. Well, that's kind of weird. You would think it would put the skills back, but it did not. Alright, so adapts to dangerous situations with transformational tricks of nature. So the Metamorph starts with 2 strength, 2 finesse, 1 two-handed, 1 polymorph, 1 persuasion. And then it had bull horns, I think. So bull horns, magnificent horns sprout from your forehead, making you see red. You can rush at your enemies and gore them. Increases retribution ability by 1 for the duration. Incompatible with Medusa Head. Set bull horns for 4 turns. Under the polymorph school, and it has a 6-turn cooldown. So it had increases retribution, it said. So if we went back to here, it increases that. So the damage reflected. Okay. Alright. Then there is Chicken Claw. 2 AP. Turn the target character into a chicken. Squawk. Set chicken form for 2 turns. Resisted by physical armor. 2-meter range. Damn, you gotta be really close. A polymorph skill. Polymorph skill. 6-turn cooldown. So, I suppose this is a way to just crowd control. I think that was one of the defaults. I think this other one was the default here. Chameleon Cloak, 1 AP. Grants you the power to blend in with any environment as if invisible. Set invisible for 2 turns. Does not break invisibility or sneaking. Interesting. So it's an invisibility. I think that's what the preset was like. And then this is the one that was not selected. Tentacle Lash, 2 AP. Lash out at your opponent, dealing 8 to 9 physical damage and setting atrophy on them. Set atrophy for 1 turn. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from strength. Resisted by physical armor. 8-meter range, another polymorph skill. And it has a 3-turn cooldown. I wonder what atrophy is. I don't know what atrophy is. That's different, so let me take a look. See if I can find that real quick. Atrophy prevents the target from using their physical weapon or skills tied to their weapon. It does not prevent casters from using spells. That's powerful as shit. Holy shit. So you can basically you prevent them from using their physical weapon for a whole turn. It's almost like making them skip a turn. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so that was the preset for Metamorph. So as far as that goes, I think the talent Opportunist comes with that preset. Opportunist gives you the ability to perform attacks of opportunity. This was very powerful in part 1 and probably will be so here too. So attacks of opportunity are when a monster is near you or you're near a monster and you try to run away from the monster to get to a better position. If you move away far enough, they will be able to stab you in the back. Not backstabbing exactly, but they have this opportunity to hit you. So it's a powerful talent to have, and it comes with the Metamorph. Let's see. Okay. Alright, so that's Metamorph. Alright, so let's take a look at the next one. Ranger. So notice right off the bat, the armor changes. Interesting. So the armor changes. Okay. Let's take a look at how that looks with the others. Ooh, that looks good. It's a cool looking bow. That looks plain. And then we have the Fane. And those are going to be the same as the companions, but Huh. So what about the helmet? Well, it's interesting that you pick a helmet that kind of fucks with your eyes when you're a ranger. Oh, you have to do that every time? That sucks. I mean, that's a terrible, a terrible helmet for someone with a bow. I'll tell you what, they really went all out on the elf helmets. Crap. Huh. So what if we look at females? Alright. Alright. I think the dwarf looked best, honestly. Alright, so we have preset. So, rangers start with 2 finesse, 1 wits, 1 huntsman, 1 pyrokinetic, and 1 lucky charm. Alright, so from the huntsman school, ricochet, 2 AP. Fire a normal arrow that deals 23 to 29 physical damage, and then finds another target within 5 meters. Forks up to 2 turns. Forks up to 2 times. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from finesse. It's a 13-meter range. Huntsman school. 4 turn cooldown. First aid. 1 AP. Heals target for 8 vitality. Cures crippled. Knockdown. Ooh, knockdown. Blind. Silence, bleeding, burning, poison, disease. So first aid cures a lot of the ones that were really common in Divinity 1. Restore 8 vitality, set rested for 1 turn. 8-meter range. Huntsman school, 4 turn cooldown. Pin down 3 AP. Deal 31 to 38 physical damage and cripple target character. Set crippled for 1 turn. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from finesse. Resisted by magic, by physical armor. 13-meter range, huntsman skill with a 3 turn cooldown. Elemental arrowheads, 1 AP. Target a surface in melee radius. Elemental damage matching that surface is added to your ranged weapon attacks and ranged weapon based skills. 3-meter range, huntsman school with a 4 turn cooldown. Okay, so you have to target it in melee range. Alright, then we have pyrokinetic abilities. Ignition, 1 AP. Sets enemy characters around you on fire. Enemy characters around you on fire. Deals 3 to 4 fire damage to each. Ignites all susceptible surfaces. Set burning for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magic armor. Pyrokinetic School 2 turn cooldown. So it only sets your enemies on fire, but if you happen to be standing in a susceptible surface, you'll be hit with whatever the surface does. All right. Then we get Peace of Mind 1 AP. Target gains clear-minded, which increases strength, finesse, and intelligence by 1, and wits by 1. Man, did anybody grammar check this shit? All right. Removes blinded, terrified, charmed, taunted, sleeping, enraged, and mad. Set clear-minded for 3 turns. 13-meter range, pyrokinetic school, and 3-turn cooldown. So this removes blinded. This removes blind. Which is it? Is it blinded or blind? It's like just no consistency. See this? It says receives a bonus from finesse. Receives bonus from intelligence. Anyway, haste. 1 AP. Sets hasted on target character. Haste increases movement speed by 2 meters per AP and gives an additional 1 AP per turn. Clear slowed and crippled. Set hasted for 2 turns, 13-meter range. Pyrokinetic, 3 AP. Well, they certainly made this one worth it. Haste is definitely worth having. 100%. Searing daggers, 2 AP. Shoot 3 flaming daggers at targets of your choice, each creating a fire surface and dealing 2 to 3 fire damage. Okay, set burning for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magic armor, 13-meter range, 1-meter explode radius. Pyrokinetic, 3-turn skill down. Yeah, that should be explosive radius. Alright, interesting. Okay. And what does it get? It gets arrow recovery. Arrow recovery gives you 33% chance to recover a special arrow after shooting it. Alright. So that was the Ranger. Rogue. Alright, so let's check out this armor here. Alright. Alright. Kind of plain on the helm. I'll tell you what, I think they've done the best job so far with the dwarf. In every way, as far as the appearance goes. Alright, so male dwarf. Quite the contrast between those two. The female doesn't get the metal plate. Another big difference. Okay. Alright, Rogue Preset. 2 Finesse, 1 Constitution, 1 Scoundrel, 1 Sneaking, 1 Dual Wield. And Adrenaline. Gain 2 action points immediately, but lose 2 action points next turn. Any action points over your maximum are lost. Gain 2 action points immediately, but lose 2 action points next turn. Does not break invisibility or sneaking. Scoundrel School, 4 turn cooldown. Okay. So in part 1, Adrenaline was game breaking. Not really game breaking, but God, it was so overpowering. And it was a lot better than what I'm looking at here. A whole lot better. But, that said, this is still going to be an extremely powerful ability in this game, I think. Anytime you can get AP on turn 1, even at the sacrifice of turn 2, it's going to be better. In fact, this might be a skill that every single character you play has to have. Like, everybody will need to have Scoundrel 1 just to get Adrenaline, for no other reason, just to get Adrenaline. Throwing Knives, 2 AP. Throw a knife at your opponent, dealing 23 to 25 physical damage. Can backstab. Can backstab. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from Finesse. 8-meter range. Scoundrel School, 1 turn cooldown. So you can backstab with throwing knives. Chloroform, 1 AP. Destroys 6 to 7 magic armor and then tries to set sleeping. Set sleeping for 1 turn. Does not break invisibility or sneaking. Okay. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from Finesse. Resisted by magic armor. 13-meter range. Scoundrel skill, 3 turn cooldown. So it seems like if like they only had 5 magic armor left and you threw this, it would eat up that magic armor and then try to put them to sleep. Alright. Backlash, 1 AP. Jump over the enemy, landing behind their back and backstabbing them for 23 to 25 physical damage. 100% chance to backstab. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from Finesse. 8-meter range, Scoundrel School with a 3-turn cooldown. So there was another ability in Divinity Part 1 that was similar to this, and it was a master skill. But what that one did was it leapt to the creature, mob, opponent, backstab them, but instead of leaving you there, it would bring you back to the point that you first used the skill. So this seems much better. That's definitely an improvement. Okay, and then talents, they get the Pawn. The Pawn permits your character 1 AP worth of free movement per turn. Acquire Scoundrel 1 incompatible with Executioner. Alright, so that is the Rogue. Alright, let's check out what's next. Actually, let's go back to the Ranger. A marksman with a legendary knack for self-preservation. Rogue. With a lot of skill and a little luck, this rogue sees the world as an open coffer. And I guess they didn't believe that these were sentences, that punctuation was not something necessary. Anyway, Shadowblade. A powerful assassin whose arsenal of both daggers and magic would terrify any enemy if they ever saw it coming. Period. No period. No period. No period. It's like nobody proofread this stuff. Anyway, Shadowblade. Alright, so let's take a look at what we got going on here. So notice he was dual wielding in the rogues. I didn't realize that. That's dual wielding. Alright, so Shadowblade appears to be... What's he doing with his other hand? Is it just a single-handed? It looks like it's single-handed. Yeah, single-handed. Well, none of these are terribly impressive. Okay. So, let's see. Shadowblade. 2 finesse, 2 wits. +1 scoundrel, +1 polymorph, +1 thievery. Okay. We've seen all of those skills already. Talent, it gets Gorilla. While sneaking, Gorilla increases attack damage by 40%. Also reduces the cost of entering sneak mode by 1 AP. Interesting. Alright. So that is the Shadowblade. What is this? Okay, crossbow. Wayfarer. Alright. A survivalist and practitioner of magic, the Wayfarer is hard to hit and even harder to evade. Okay. That's a cool looking bow. Well, that's the least ostentatious hat that we've seen from an elf. That's kind of ugly. There we go. There we go. Rambo. It's Rambo. They made Rambo in the game. Alright. There's Varys. The OG Varys. Not that crappy Veil Guard or Inquisition shit. Ooh, look at that. Let's see. What was it? The Brothers Grimm? The Undead Rambo. Ooh, look at that. Burlap sack. Wayfarer. 2 finesse, 1 intelligence, 1 huntsman, 1 geomancer, 1 bartering. And we saw the huntsman abilities, but now we get geomancer abilities. Poison dart, 2 AP. Cast a magical poisonous dart that deals 7 to 8 poison damage and creates a puddle of poison. So that can heal the undead. Set poison for 3 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magical armor, 13 meter range, 1 meter explode radius. Geomancer school, 4 turn cooldown. Fossil strike, 2 AP. A giant rock filled with sticky oil that deals 6 to 7 earth damage. Creates an oil surface where it lands. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence, 13 meter range, 2 meter explode radius. Geomancer school, 3 turn cooldown. So, I don't think it was called Fossil Strike in part 1, but it had a similar function. But basically, putting the oil down, you can really slow characters that go through that oil and use that to your advantage to delay them or set them on fire. It's all around useful skill. Fortify, 1 AP, provides 8 physical armor. While fortified, the character cannot be teleported. Removes poisoned, bleeding, burning, acid, decaying. Set fortified for 3 turns. 13 meter range. Geomancer school, 4 turn cooldown. Alright. That's probably going to be very useful. Alright, contamination, 1 AP. Deals 4 to 5 poison damage to enemies and allies around you. And can poison them. Turns water, blood surfaces, and clouds into poison. Set poisoned for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence, resisted by magic armor. Geomancer school with 3 turn cooldown. So I can see how, you can use these for damage, but they're also useful for healing undead. So if you have an undead character or choose to play one, Wayfarer would be good. Alright, it comes with Pet Pal. Pet Pal enables you to talk to animals. Highly useful if you want to get the most out of the game. Alright, so that is the Wayfarer. Okay. Witch. An intimidating presence whose bone-chilling powers terrify friend and foe alike. Yeah, looks like a one-hander again. Quite the helmet. Yep, one-handed. Whoa, holy shit. Gigantic beetle on her head. Oh, actually, you know what that looks like? It's a reaper. She's got a reaper on her head. It's colors. Alright. That's not bad. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Alright. That looks funky. It's like handlebars. That's the male version of the Reaper. That's cool looking. Now that's cool looking. Wow. Yeah, I tell you what, man, the lizards look really cool. They look really cool. Alright, preset. Witch. 1 finesse, 1 intelligence, 1 constitution, 1 scoundrel, 1 necromancer, 1 persuasion. So we have the scoundrel already, so necromancer abilities. Mosquito swarm, 2 AP. Unleash a swarm of giant mosquitoes to suck the blood from your enemies, dealing 6 to 7 physical damage and healing yourself. Restore vitality equal to damage dealt. Set bleeding for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by physical armor. 13-meter range, necromancer. School, 3 turn cooldown. Bloodsucker, 1 AP. Target character consumes blood surfaces around them, restoring vitality. The more blood, the more they will be healed. Restore up to 17 vitality depending on relevant surface area. 13-meter range, necromancer school with a 3 turn cooldown. Decaying touch, 2 AP. Deals 6 to 7 physical damage to target character. Sets decay. So the target will take physical damage from healing spells and potions. Set decaying for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by physical armor, 2-meter range. Necromancer school, 3 turn cooldown. Raise bloated corpse, 1 AP. Target a corpse to raise a bloated cadaver that fights for you. It can explode, dealing physical damage. A bloated corpse will be summoned at the location of your target. Blows up your target, 13-meter range. Necromancer school with a 3 turn cooldown. Interesting. It's basically a summons, assuming there's a corpse there. And Necromancer comes with Leech. Leech heals you when standing in blood. Alright, makes sense. That was the Witch. Wizard. A scholar of magic specialized in starting and ending battles with a flick of the wrist, exacting swift victory from a safe distance. And we have a dual-wield wand wielder here. 2 wands. Looks like the same helmet. No? This one's got like a little dragon in front there. Interesting. Okay, the wand's changed. Look at that. Ooh. Hovering wand. Wow. Nope, she still has the Reaper on. He's like, fuck it, just let him float by me. Ooh, Dwarven. So it is the same helmet, though. Yeah, every time I look at the lizard, I know the lizard just looks badass. All the way around. Alright, let's get the preset. So, wizard, 2 intelligence and 1 constitution. 1 pyrokinetic and 1 geomancer, 1 lore master, and we've seen all of those already. Alright. So let's go to Battle Mage. Amplifies brute strength with powerful magic. And what do we have here? Single-handed? Nope, dual wielding. Same helmet though, isn't it? And that's different. That looks badass, actually. The axe is there. Ooh. That looks cool. Interesting. It's the same as Ifan. Huh. Look at those axes. It's like Cloud from Final Fantasy. Alright. So Battle Mage gets 1 strength, 1 intelligence, 1 constitution, 1 warfare, 1 arrow thurge, 1 persuasion. And get warfare abilities. Bouncing shield, 2 AP. Throw your shield at an enemy, dealing 0 to 2 physical damage. Shield can bounce to another enemy in 5 meters. Damage is based on the physical armor of your shield. Damage is based on the physical armor of your shield. Interesting. 13-meter range. Warfare School 2-turn cooldown. So it's based purely on the physical armor of your shield. Battering Ram. 2 AP. Rush forward in a straight line to a designated point. hitting all enemies in your path with 16 to 19 physical damage, and setting knockdown. Set knockdown for 1 turn. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from strength. Resisted by physical armor, 12-meter range, warfare, school, 5 turns cooldown. So in Divinity 1, this was one of the most powerful abilities, or at least most useful abilities as far as crowd control goes. Battle Stomp, 2 AP. Smash your weapon into the ground, knocking down non-allied characters, in front of you, and hitting them for 18 to 23 physical damage. Also clears non-cursed surfaces and clouds. Non-cursed, huh? Interesting. So there will be cursed clouds and surfaces. Set knockdown for 1 turn. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from strength. Resisted by physical armor, 10-meter range. Warfare school with a 4-turn cooldown. Crippling blow, 2 AP. Cripple the target with a sweeping blow and all characters around it. Okay. Deals 35 to 42 physical damage. Set crippled for 1 turn. Damage is based on your basic attack and receives a bonus from strength. Resisted by physical armor. 2.2 meter range. Warfare school with 3-turn cooldown. So crippling blow in part 1 was a single target, and it was actually a really powerful single target. This seems even more powerful. Alright, then we have arrow third spells. Electric Discharge, 2 AP. An electrical jolt deals 6 to 7 air damage to target character. Sets status shocked. Set shocked for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magic armor, 13-meter range. Arrow Thurge. School, 3-turn cooldown. Shocking Touch. 2 AP. Sets the shocked status on a target within arm's length and deals 8 to 9 air damage. Sets shocked for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magic armor. It's only a 2-meter range. Arrow Thurge. School. 3-turn cooldown. Blinding Radius. 2 AP. Enemies around you receive 6 to 7 air damage. You receive a status that turns enemies in a 5-meter radius blind. So, okay, you become the center of the light. Okay, and everything around you gets blinded. Okay. Set blinding radius for 1 turn. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Arrow Thurge. School with a 4-turn cooldown. Favorable Wind, 1 AP. Control the forces of nature, increasing the movement speed of you and your allies by 1.5 meters, as long as your allies stay within 10 meters of you. Set favorable wind aura for 4 turns. Arrow Thurge School with a 6-turn cooldown. Alright. So that was that. That was Battle Mage. Okay. Cleric. Heals allies or smashes skulls depending on the direction of the winds. So here we have our first sword board. Actually, it'll be a mason board apparently. Looks pretty cool though. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's a cool looking helm. Predator helm. Okay. Okay. Those are very similar. preset. Cleric has 1 strength. Interesting. 1 intelligence, 1 constitution. 1 hydrosophist, 1 necromancer, 1 bartering. And we saw the necromancer skills. They get hydrosophist skills. Hail strike. 3 AP. Icicles fall from the sky, chilling characters and dealing 3 to 4 water damage. They create ice surfaces where they hit the ground. Sit chilled for 2 turns. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. Resisted by magic armor, 13 meter range, 1 meter explode radius. Hydrosophist School, 3 turn cooldown. Armor of Frost, 1 AP. Ice forms a defensive barrier around the target, providing 8 magic armor. Cures burning, poisoned, stunned, frozen, suffocated, and petrified. Now that's going to be all around useful. Sets magic shell for 3 turns. 13 meter range. I'm not sure what magic shell is. I guess that's just, yeah, alright. Hydrosophist skill, 4 turn cooldown. Rain, 1 AP, creates a spreading water surface which douses fires. Set wet status on characters in the area. Set wet for 1 turn, 8 meter range, duration 1 turn. Hydrosophist School, 6 turn cooldown. Well, that's a large cooldown for rain. Huh. Restoration, 1 AP. Restore vitality of a target character. Restoration also cures poison, bleeding. Poison and bleeding. Restore 7 vitality for 2 turns, 13 meter range, hydrosophist skill, 4 turn cooldown. So it also cures poison and bleeding. So restoration in part 1 did not do that. So they added to this. Okay, interesting. Talents, Hothead. While you are at maximum vitality, Hothead grants you an extra 10% critical chance and 10% more accuracy. That's not bad at all, is it? Not at all. Alright. Conjurer. So this is just new completely. A Conjurer. Conjures a trusty personal demon and elemental totems to aid in battle. So this looks like another sword board. Wanded board. Looks not bad at all. Huh. Cool. That's a cool looking shield right there. If Geralt had a shield, that's what it would look like. It's pretty much the same. So, it's obvious that they just consider Fane a human. Undead, but still human. Yeah, that shield's badass compared to the other ones. Alright. Conjure preset. +1 intelligence, +2 constitution, 1 summoning, 1 war master, 1 leadership. And it gets just summoning skills. Okay, so dimensional bolt, 2 AP. Shoot a volatile bolt that deals 6 to 7 of a random type. And then it creates a corresponding surface. Damage is based on your level and receives bonus from intelligence. 13-meter range, summoning school, 1 turn cooldown. Elemental totem, 2 AP. Target a ground surface and conjure a totem of the corresponding element. Each turn, this totem will fire a projectile at enemies in sight. The stats of the summons will depend on caster level and summoning ability. 13-meter range, duration 3 turns, summoning school, 1 turn cooldown. Farsight infusion. Unlock ranged attack for your incarnate. So 1 AP. Unlock ranged attack for your incarnate. Provides 7 magic armor. Amount depends on your level. Increases damage 25%. Set Farsight infusion, 13-meter range, summoning school. And it is a 3 turn cooldown. So this is a buff for your incarnate, which is this thing, I guess. Okay. 2 AP, Conjure Incarnate. Conjure a personal elemental that matches the ground surface it's summoned onto. Your incarnate can be buffed with infusions. Once you hit summoning ability level 10, a colossal incarnate champion will answer your summons. Huh. The stats of the summons will depend on caster level and summoning ability. 13-meter range, duration 10 turns, summoning school with a 6 turn cooldown. So you summon the incarnate, then you infuse it. The incarnate matches the ground surface it's summoned onto, so that's why this is here. So this creates a random target, a random surface, and then you can throw your incarnate on the random surface. I got it. Okay. Talents. I think it's Pet Pal. Pet Pal enables you to talk to animals. Alright. Now it's Conjurer. Enchanter prefers to turn the tide of battle from afar, manipulating foes with powerful magic. Okay. This looks like a two-handed staff. A very large two-handed staff. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Look at that thing. Oh man. That is... Man, they really went all out with the fucking dragons, man. Look at that. Lizards. That's cool as shit. That's huge. What the fuck is that? The Tower of Babel on her head. Alright, gotta muzzle this guy. Wow, look at that. The staff's interesting. The helm's interesting. Wow, that looks good. What is that in its mouth? What is that that's in the damn wolf's mouth? Oh, it's an eye. Huh. Oh, we've seen that before. Fane. Hmm. I think the male's is better. Yeah, it is. Huh. Wow, that actually looks really cool. The female, not so much. The male, though, that looks actually pretty damn cool. Holy shit. Alright. Interesting. Preset. So it Enchanter is 2 intelligence, 1 constitution, 1 hydrosophist, 1 aerothurge, 1 lore master. And it has hydrosophist and aerothurge abilities. Far out man. Far Out Man increases the range of skills and scrolls by 2 meters. Does not affect melee or touch range spells. So this is an absolute necessity for any spellcaster. Alright. Far Out Man, Enchanter, Fighter, Brutal Warrior, Expert in Close Combat. It looks like to be a one-handed. Alright. Looks pretty cool. Ooh, look at that. Actually, that looks pretty fucking cool. Yeah, that's cool looking. That's one of the few cooler looking elf ones. Well, that's nice too. Oh, that looks really good. Looks like the same thing. Why did they put the shield in the ground? I guess it's meant to be that way. Guess so. Oh, that looks horrible. Doesn't look right on a female. They have that buffed up chest like that. Alright, let's see. Fighter, 1 strength, 2 constitution, 1 warfare, 1 geomancer, 1 bartering. And it gets warfare and geomancer abilities. Inquisitor. A daring mace wielder risking life and limb to decimate evil head on. It looks like he is a one-handed mace wielder. Okay. Yeah, we've seen that helmet before. That looks cool. That looks cool. Now that's another cool looking elf one. That's neat. Alright, I like that one. Ooh. Now that is cool. Did a good job on that one too. Yeah, this is one of the plainer ones for the dwarf. See how that shoulder is clipping through the material? Yeah. Not as impressive as the male version. Yeah, that's one of the cooler looking elf ones. And honestly, this is one of the cooler looking human ones. Alright, so that was the Inquisitor preset. Inquisitor, 1 strength, 1 intelligence, 1 constitution, 1 warfare, 1 necromancer, 1 telekinesis, and warfare and necromancer abilities. Okay. Knight. Specialized in war tactics, knights are trained not only to fight, but to rally troops. Looks like a two-hander. It's not bad. Helmet a little bit off, I think. It's not bad. Not bad at all. So the past 3 presets for the elves have been pretty cool looking. That's just plain. Looks better on a female. Yeah, I think the elves are better. Alright, so that... Let's see... Preset. Knight, 2 strength, 1 constitution, 1 warfare, 1 two-handed, 1 bartering. And it gets warfare abilities. Okay. Metamorph. We are back to the metamorph. Is that where we started? We started at the metamorph. Yes, we did. Okay. So, yeah, that was the presets. So last thing I want to do here is go into the presets, go into the talents. Okay, so let's go over these talents here. We've already seen these, so let's go to ambidextrous. Ambidextrous reduces the cost of using grenades and scrolls by 1 AP when your offhand is free. Man, you would have to have a one-handed character, and that just seems to be like gimping yourself all the way around. I don't see that being all that useful, honestly. I mean, it would be nice to reduce it by 1, but not at the expense of having your hand free when you can have a shield or be dual wielding or using a two-hander. Combat Kid. Once per combat, if an enemy lands a fatal blow, Combat Kid will help you bounce back to life with 20% health. If you die and are resurrected in combat, Combat Kid will be available again. So in part 1, they locked this behind a skill called Willpower. I think it was Willpower. And you had to have 5 Willpower, which was a max to even get it. In this, they're just giving it to you right off the bat. This is powerful. Like, this is something you would want on everybody, I believe. I mean, this is basically a free get out of jail free card. And as long as the enemy that killed you doesn't have another attack that he can immediately hit you with, you have a chance, maybe, of salvaging the fight. I think everybody would want to have that. Elemental Affinity. Elemental Affinity lowers the action point cost of spells by 1 when standing in a surface of the same element. Okay. That could be useful. There's one thing in Divinity 1. It seemed to be that you were always either standing in fire or poison. So if you had any abilities that were fire or poison based, you know, this would reduce the cost by 1. Alright, maybe. Escapist. Escapist allows you to flee combat even when enemies are right next to you. So this is more for the people that are playing on the tactician level honor than anything else. We saw Far Out Man. So 5-star diner. 5-star diner doubles the effects of food and potions. So in Divinity 1, most foods, you can create a dinner, I think, and it would give you plus 20% heal. It would be a 20% heal and 1 strength, I think. 2 strength, maybe? Forgot strength. But, you know, popping a food for 40% heal is pretty powerful, so that might be very useful in this might be very useful still in this one. Last cannon. with glass cannon, you start every combat round with maximum AP, but magic and physical armor do not protect you from statuses. Okay, so that's the first time I actually seen it say it outright. So magic and physical armor protects you from the statuses. So they have to go through your magic and physical armor, or maybe one or the other. Probably one or the other. To hit you with a status effect. So man, I tell you, that makes that mechanic extremely powerful. And going to be extremely difficult to get through. So yeah, this would definitely be blast gas cannon, because if they can just crowd control you right off the bat, then what's the point of having a glass cannon, you know? Who cares if you have maximum AP if their first turn they just knock you down? Or stun you, or freeze you, or whatever they do with you. Alright, we saw Gorilla, we saw Hothead, we saw Leech, Living Armor. Living Armor adds 35% of all healing you receive by skills or consumables to your magic armor. Alright. Interesting. Interesting. Let me look at something. Necromancer. Get out, I want that. Necromancer heals you whenever you deal damage directly to vitality. Directly to vitality. Huh. So this would be a perfect match for that. Okay. So 35% all healing you receive. So if you're sitting there with Necromancer on, you're sitting there healing every time you hit with Necromancer. There you go. You know, as long as you get through the shields, once you get to that vitality, and then every time you hit, not only are you hitting and stealing their health and healing it, you're also adding to your magic armor by doing that. That's like a twofer. Alright, that's going to be powerful. Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf provides plus 2 max AP, plus 2 recovery AP, plus 30% vitality, plus 60% armor, plus 60% magic armor, and doubles invested points and attributes. Up to a maximum of 40 attributes, so it can go to at least 40. Holy shit. And combat abilities, except polymorph ability. Doubles the invested points and attributes, up to a maximum of 40. And combat abilities, except for polymorph, up to a maximum of 10, while you are adventuring solo or with most one companion. This bonus is temporarily removed while there are more than 2 members in the current party, incompatible with glass cannon. Alright, well, I'm not going to be doing that, but still. Mnemonic. Mnemonic gives you 3 extra points in your memory attribute. Okay. Straightforward. Morning person. When resurrected, you resurrect to full. So, if you had Comeback Kid, I guess it's technically not considered a resurrection, is it? Because you never really died, so that's not how that would work. Okay. So if you triggered Comeback Kid, and then you died anyway, and then you rezzed and you had Morning Person, you would res at full health, and if you died again in the same fight, Comeback Kid could trigger a second time. Okay. Parry Master. We've already seen Opportunist. Parry Master gives you 10% dodging while dual wielding. That's pretty straightforward. Pet Pal we've seen. Savage Swordledge. Savage Swordledge gives all magical skills a critical chance equal to your critical chance score. So magical skills can't critical hit until you get this, and then it'll apply the critical chance that you have to it. Oh, that's interesting. So if you want your spells to critical hit, you have to have that. Slingshot. Slingshot adds an extra 5-meter range to your grenade throws. Let's see, Slingshot. So is pinpoint still here? No pinpoint. Alright, so in Divinity 1, grenades were notoriously terrible for not going to where you want them to go. Even though you're aiming at a spot, it would throw it completely different or throw it on top of you. I mean, it made grenades more or less your enemy until you picked up a talent called Pinpoint. And then Pinpoint allowed you to throw grenades exactly where you wanted to throw them. Looks like they got rid of that, so I guess you can start throwing grenades with accuracy. And this just adds 5-meter range to your grenade throws. Alright, Stench. Stench decreases everyone's attitude towards you by 25, but melee opponents will find you less attractive in combat. Yeah, I don't know if that ever really did work in part 1. It didn't really seem all that impressive to me. I can't tell if it did work or not, so I don't think that's an impressive thing. We read the pawn. Torturer. With Torturer, certain statuses caused by you are no longer blocked by magic or physical armor, and their duration is extended by 1 turn. Burning, poison, bleeding, necrofire, acid, suffocating, entangled, death wish, and ruptured tendons are affected by this ability, this talent. Alright, so you're able to just bypass armor. Okay. Unstable. Unstable makes you explode in a bloody cloud when you die, dealing 50% of your vitality as physical damage in a 3-meter radius. Imagine getting that firing off while you're standing by one of your other companions, and then it just kills you and everybody around you. Yeah, I don't know why you would do this. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, if you have Comeback Kid, it should still count as you dying. You just come back to life immediately. So I think this would work. If you had Comeback Kid, they knock you down and then you explode. And you're still alive because of Comeback Kid. Huh. I wonder. Alright, Walk It Off. Walk It Off reduces all status durations by 1 turn, including positive statuses. Does not affect statuses with a duration of 1 turn. I don't understand this. Why would you ever want to have your positive status effects go down 1? This is a talent. Why would you ever want that? That's weird. What a Rush. Increases your recovery and maximum action points by 1 when your health is below 50. Okay. Then we have the ones we can't get to yet. Alright, All Skilled Up. All Skilled Up immediately gives you 1 extra combat ability point and 1 extra civil ability point. Requires level 2. Okay. Bigger and better immediately grants you 2 extra attribute points to spend. Requires level 2. Demon. A character with Demon has an extra 15% fire resistance, but takes a 14% penalty to water resistance. Additionally, the maximum fire resistance is raised by 10. Requires pyrokinetic and compatible with Ice King. Yeah, this just seemed meh in part 1, and it seemed meh again. Duck, duck, goose. Duck, duck, goose lets you evade attacks of opportunity. Now that's interesting. That's something you probably want to get around to getting. Requires 1 huntsman. Elemental Ranger. Shooting arrows will inflict bonus elemental damage depending on the surface your target is standing in. Alright. Requires 1 huntsman. Executioner. Executioner gives you 2 extra action points from dealing a killing blow once per turn. Requires 1 warfare, incompatible with the pawn. Now that's probably something you're going to want to have on every single melee character. Ice King. A character with Ice King has an extra 15% water resistance, but takes a 15% penalty to fire resistance. Additionally, the maximum water resistance is raised by 10. Requires Hydrosophist 1, incompatible with Demon. Again, that's the... And Picture of Health. Picture of Health gives you extra vitality, 3% for every point in warfare. Okay. That's going to be useful. Okay, so that is the talents. Alright. So... Alright, we're going to end this episode here. And next episode, I will make up my mind on what I want to do to start this game. Alright, later guys.